So have you ever just sat there staring at a totally blank digital canvas? Like, you have this crystal clear vision of what you want to say, the exact message, but you just have absolutely no idea how to make the text actually look, well, good.
Oh, yeah. All the time.
Yeah?
It's a huge friction point for anyone starting out in visual media.
Right.
You lay down a headline and it just kind of sits there. It's flat.
Right, exactly. It has the meaning of the words, I guess, but none of the actual emotional impact you wanted.
Yeah, and the software gives you this illusion that you can do anything. But if you don't understand the underlying mechanics, how the engine actually handles text, you're essentially just guessing. People treat typography like it's just a coat of paint you slap on at the end.
Which is so dangerous.
It really is. It's actually the structural foundation. If you don't understand your materials, your visual building is just going to collapse.
And that structural stuff is exactly what we are getting into today. Welcome to the deep dive, everyone. We are going to break down the absolute core design concepts for someone just starting their career, or honestly, anyone who has some gaps in their knowledge.
Which is most of us, if we're being honest.
Oh, totally. And we're grounding this in a really specific source today. We're looking at Chapter 07, which is called Typographic Design, from the book Adobe Photoshop CC Classroom in a book 2018.
Yeah, and the project they use in this chapter is perfect for this. We are looking at building a tech magazine cover. It's called Digital.
Right, and it's not just a blank page. It has a model, this crazy pixelated orange background, and just a ton of really dynamic typography. Okay, let's unpack this.
Let's do it. So before we get into all the flashy effects, we have to talk about how the software actually understands text.
Yeah.
Because it's a huge source of confusion.
Yeah, let's talk about the vector versus raster thing, because that always trips people up. Because we are in a pixel-based program, right? The whole thing is a grid of pixels. But the book says the type is vector-based. But wait, if I zoom in on text on my canvas, I see jagged edges. I see pixels. So how on earth is it a vector?
Okay, so this is the fundamental paradox of the software. You have to separate how it looks on your screen from what the actual data is. When you type a letter, the source data, like the actual font file, that is purely mathematical. It's just geometry, curves, anchor points, math. It has no size, no pixels.
So the software is just holding this math equation in the background.
Exactly. But your monitor can't show math. It can only show pixels. So the software looks at your zoom level, your document resolution, and it essentially draws a temporary pixel preview of that math on your screen.
Oh, wow. So it's faking it for the monitor.
Yeah. It figures out which pixels fall inside the math boundaries and colors them in. And it applies anti-aliasing to smooth the edges, adding those little gray pixels to trick your eye into seeing a curve.
Right, blending it with the background. So that pixel version is just like temporary.
Completely temporary. The software never throws away the original math blueprint. So if you grab the text and scale it up by like 400%.
It doesn't get blurry.
Exactly. It doesn't just stretch the bad pixels. It goes back to the math, calculates the new giant size, and renders a brand new, perfectly crisp set of pixels.
That is so cool. It wears a pixel costume, but its skeleton is vector.
That's a great way to put it. And for you, as a designer, this means you can experiment endlessly. You can scale, rotate, whatever, and you never lose quality.
Which is huge when we get to printing later. But now that we know it won't blur, let's look at the first big step in the project, dropping down the main title, Digital.
Right, the biggest, boldest thing on the page. And the first thing the book has you do isn't even typing, it's dropping a guide.
Yeah, a vertical guide right at the 4.25-inch mark. And they emphasize holding the shift key so it snaps perfectly to the ruler tick mark.
Because we don't want to just eyeball it. That rigid spine sets up the whole architecture. And once we have that, we use what's called point type for the title.
Point type. So that's just clicking once with the text tool, right? Not drawing a box.
Exactly. You drop one single point and you type. It just goes on forever in a straight line until you hit enter. It's meant for display text, like big titles.
And they use a huge font, Minion Pro Regular 144 point. But the really interesting part is the tracking. They set it to 100. Let's talk about tracking, because it's not the same as kerning, right?
Right. Kerning is the space between two individual letters. Cracking is the overall uniform space across the whole word. And when you crank it up to 100, you fundamentally change how the word feels.
It makes it feel so much wider.
It does. When letters are squished together, your brain sees them as one solid block, a dense brick. By adding that space, that tracking, you let the background breathe through the word. It makes it feel airy, luxurious, or in this case, very technological.
It's like social distancing for the letters. It just totally shifts the mood. But there's this one thing with point type that drives beginners absolutely crazy, the commit button.
Oh, the enter key trap.
Yes. You type the word, it looks great, and you instinctively press enter to finish. And what happens? It just drops to a new line and you're still typing.
Because the software thinks you're still writing a paragraph. You have to tell, I am done. You either have to click the little check mark at the top of the screen or...
Switch tools.
Yeah, switch tools.
Yeah.
It forces you to stop being a writer and go back to being a designer. It's a hard switch.
Definitely. Okay, so we have this big, airy word, digital, but right now it's just a solid color. The project takes this and uses it as a clipping mask. This is where it gets really fun.
A clipping mask is basically using a shape as a cookie cutter.
I love that analogy. Think of the text as a cookie cutter and the image above it as the dough.
Yeah. So the project gives you this highly detailed photo of a circuit board.
Yeah.
Millions of pixels.
Yeah.
You drag that file, it's called circuitboard.tif- right over your text.
And you hold shift while dragging so it lands perfectly in the center. I love that little trick.
It saves so much time. Then you scale it down, holding Alt and Shift so it scales from the center, and you create the mask. You can use the Layers menu, or just hold Alt or Option and click on the line between the two layers.
And boom, suddenly the circuit board is only visible inside the letters. The math of that is wild. What is the software actually doing there?
It's calculating transparency in real time. It looks at the text layer and says, okay, wherever there's a solid letter, show the circuit board. Wherever there is empty space, make the circuit board invisible.
But the circuit board isn't actually deleted, right?
No, the whole image is still there in the background, which is the best part. You can grab the Move tool and physically slide the circuit board around inside the letters to get the perfect crop.
Like sliding the dough under the cookie cutter before you press down.
Exactly. It's totally non-destructive. What's fascinating here is how blending a flat vector shape with a highly detailed raster image creates this instant complex depth.
But it still looks a little pasted on, so they add an inner shadow.
Right, a layer style.
The settings are specific. Multiply blend mode, 48% opacity, distance 18, size 16. Why those numbers? What does the inner shadow actually do?
It flips the whole illusion. Without it, the text looks like it's painted on the background. With the inner shadow, we're simulating light. We're telling the viewer's brain that the orange background is a thick piece of plastic, the letters are cut out of it, and the circuit board is sitting underneath it.
Oh, wow. It's a shadow falling down into the cutout.
Yeah. The distance pushes the shadow down and the size makes it softer. And the multiply blend mode is key. It doesn't just paint gray, it actually darkens the colors of the circuit board below it, so it looks like a real shadow interacting with the material.
Just a few clicks and you have crazy 3D depth. I love it. Okay, so big titles are fun, but real-world design relies heavily on body copy, the smaller text. How do we manage larger blocks without losing our minds?
We have to move from point type to paragraph type. The right side of the cover needs subheadlines. The trend issue, what's hot, what's not.
And the book simulates a very real scenario here. The copy is actually provided on a digital yellow sticky note right there in the file.
Which happens all the time when you're working with an art director or a copywriter. They just leave a note.
So you have to copy the text from the note. But if you just click and paste, you get a disaster, right?
A total disaster. You'll get a single line of text that shoots off the edge of the screen.
Yeah.
Because you need a container. You have to click and drag with the type tool to draw a box first.
The book says to drag a 4x8-inch box, snapping to those guides we made earlier. But wait, if I try to draw a new text box near an existing one, the software always tries to select the old one. It's so annoying.
It is aggressively trying to help you. To stop it, you just hold the shift key before you click and drag. That tells the program, no, I definitely want a brand new text box right here.
Such a good tip. Okay, so we have our box, we paste the text, but there's another trap here. If you just hit paste, it might bring in weird fonts from wherever you copied it.
Which is why you always use paste without formatting.
Yeah.
It strips away all the garbage, the weird sizes, the colors, and just drops in the raw text so you can style it cleanly.
Okay, so let's style it. Let's look at the trend issue. They format it with a 70-point font size, but the leading is set to 55 points.
Now this is where it gets into real editorial design. Leading is the vertical space between the lines of text.
Why is it called leading? Like the metal?
Literally the metal. In the old days of letterpress, they would put physical strips of lead between the rows of type to push them further apart. The software normally defaults to auto leading, which is usually about 120% of the font size. So 70-point text would normally have around 84-point leading.
Just to keep it readable so the lines don't crash, but we are setting it to 55. That's smaller than the font itself.
Right. We are intentionally collapsing the vertical space.
Oh, so the baselines are getting shoved together.
Exactly. And psychologically, it stops looking like 3 separate sentences and starts looking like one solid graphic block. It feels tight, cohesive, and very modern. It adds visual tension.
I mean, doing that manually for every single subheadline would take forever.
And you'd definitely mess it up. You'd make one 56 points by accident. That's why we use styles.
Paragraph styles and character styles. This is basically systematizing the whole thing. It's like CSS for your image file.
It's exactly like CSS. You define the rules once. Headline style is 70.55 leading, bold, and then you just click a button to apply it to any text. Paragraph styles handle the big stuff alignment, spacing. Character styles are for the exceptions, like if you just want one single word to be orange.
But there is a massive headache with styles for beginners. The clear override button. Explain what happens when styles just won't apply.
Oh man. So let's say you manually highlighted a word and changed it to blue using the normal color picker. You just created a manual override. The software assumes you did that on purpose and it protects it.
Okay.
So later, if you click your new paragraph style that says make everything red, the text turns red except for that one blue word. The style looks broken.
Because the manual tweak is overriding the master style.
Right. So you have to highlight the text and hit the clear override button. It flushes out all your manual tweaks and forces the text to obey the master style. It is a lifesaver.
A total lifesaver. Okay, so we've mastered rigid, structured text aligned to guides. It looks great, but it's very static. Now we want to break the rules. We need some organic motion.
We need the text to look like it's literally coming out of the model's mouth.
Yeah, the questions. What's new with games.music.phones? This means we can't use a straight line anymore. We are talking about type on a path.
We have to draw a vector curve path first using the pen tool or a shape tool, and then we attach the text to it.
And when you hover over that path with the text tool, the cursor changes, right? It gets this little squiggly line through it.
Yeah, that means it's ready to lock onto the path. But here is the tricky part. The text doesn't just sit there. It has to figure out exactly how to curve.
So how does it know which way to flow?
It depends entirely on how you drew the path. If you clicked from left to right when you drew it, the text flows left to right. And the software does this insane math where it calculates the exact perpendicular angle at every single point on that curve, so every individual letter stands up straight relative to the curve.
That's a lot of real-time math. The project says to right-align the text, click the end of the path near the mouth, and type, but there are 3 paths stacked right next to each other: games, music, and phones.
Yeah, and trying to click near existing paths is a nightmare. Again, the software tries to help you by selecting the layer you are hovering near.
Which is not what we want. We want a new layer.
So we use that trick again, the evangelist tip from Julianne Cost. You hold Shift while you click with the type tool. It overrides the auto select and forces a brand new text layer right where you clicked.
It's so necessary. And another great tip from the book, if you want to highlight all the text on a layer fast, you don't have to carefully drag your cursor over it. You just double-click the layer thumbnail on the Layers panel.
Boom! Instantly highlighted, ready to type over. So duplicate the layer, change games to music and then to phones, and we use the free transform path tool to just rotate them slightly, like 15 degrees, so they fan out from the mouth.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting. Straight paths, even curved ones, can be kind of flat. The book has us use the work text dialog to add a wave style.
Because we want it to look like a physical sound wave traveling through space.
And the math here is crazy. We plug in specific numbers. Bend is plus 33%, horizontal distortion is minus 23%, and vertical distortion is plus 5%. What are those distortions actually doing?
The bend is simple. It just controls how severe the wave is. But the distortions, that's where the magic happens. By making the horizontal distortion a negative number, we're essentially squishing the left side of the text and expanding the right side.
Oh, we're artificially creating perspective.
Exactly. We are faking a vanishing point. The letters near the mouth look big and close, and the letters further away shrink down like they're fading into the distance. It takes a completely 2D layer and gives it dynamic 3D energy.
It literally looks like it's coming out of the screen. Having warped and shaped all this text, let's take a second to look at the actual letters themselves, because the fonts we use have all these hidden depths that most people completely ignore.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Most people think a font is just the alphabet and some numbers. They have no idea what OpenType actually is.
Let's dive into OpenType, because it was a massive deal when it came out. It was jointly developed by Adobe and Microsoft, right?
Yeah, and it had to be, because the industry was in chaos. Before OpenType, we had the font wars. Adobe had PostScript fonts, and Apple and Microsoft had TrueType fonts. And they fundamentally hated each other.
So what happened if you sent a file to someone with the other type?
It would explode. Well, not literally, but the text would reflow, the spacing would break, the document would substitute a completely different font. It was a production nightmare.
Enter OpenType.
Right. OpenType is basically a super wrapper. It's a single file format that works perfectly on Mac and Windows. No more reflowing issues. But even better, it vastly increased the storage capacity of the font.
Yeah, old fonts could only hold like 250 characters, just enough for the alphabet and basic punctuation. OpenType can hold over 65,000 glyphs.
Which means type designers can hide so much cool stuff inside a single font file. And the book walks us through how to access it using the character panel menus.
Let's talk about discretionary ligatures. Standard ligatures are just fixing problems, right? Like when an F and an I crash into each other, the font automatically swaps in a combined character.
Exactly. But discretionary ligatures are purely for style. They're these ornate, sweeping connections between letters inspired by old hand-drawn calligraphy. They are turned off by default.
Because they'd look ridiculous in a normal paragraph.
Right. But for a headline, you can highlight the letters, turn on discretionary ligatures, and suddenly your plain font looks incredibly elegant and customized.
And it also mentions swashes, which are those crazy extended swoops on capital letters. But my absolute favorite feature is true fractions.
Oh, it's so satisfying. If you type a 1, a slash, and a 2, it looks terrible. The numbers are huge, the slash is awkward.
But if you turn on true fractions,
the OpenType engine intercepts it. It goes into that massive library of 65,000 characters, grabs a specially drawn, tiny superscript 1, a proper fraction bar, and a tiny subscript 2, and perfectly formats them. Instantly.
It's just magic, and this tech is still evolving. We now have things like color fonts, right? OpenType SVG.
Yeah. Traditionally, a font has no color. You pick the color in Photoshop. But OpenType SVG allows the designer to build gradients, multiple colors, and even textures directly into the letters themselves. Emojis are the most common example of that.
Oh, right. When I type a laughing face, that's an OpenType SVG font.
Exactly. But the real game changer, the thing that is blowing designers' minds right now, is variable fonts.
OpenType VAR. Okay, explain this because it sounds impossible.
Historically, if you wanted bold text, you had to load a specific file called bold. If you wanted light text, you loaded light. If you wanted a weight exactly in the middle, too bad.
You had to fake it, which always looks awful.
Yeah. Adding a stroke to make it thicker, it ruins the design.
Yeah.
But a variable font is one single file that contains a continuous range of designs. Instead of picking a weight from a list, you get a slider in the Properties panel.
Wait, a slider?
A slider. You drag it, and the font smoothly transforms from hairline thin to ultra heavy right in front of your eyes. It interpolates the math in real time. You can just weight, width, slant. It's infinite customizability.
That is wild. And how do you find all these crazy alternate characters if you don't know the keyboard shortcuts?
The Glyphs panel, it's literally just a massive grid showing every single character hidden inside that font file. You just double-click what you want. Or, a cool trick, if you highlight a letter on your canvas and it has alternates available, a little thick underline appears under it.
Oh, I've seen that. And you click it and it gives you a pop-up of all the fancy swash versions of that exact letter.
Yep, it's so fast.
Okay, so OpenType is amazing if you have the font file. But the book has this extra credit section that deals with the designer's worst nightmare.
The flattened client file.
Yes, you have an old JPEG of a magazine cover. It says premiere issue in this really specific script font. The vector text layer is gone. It's just baked into the pixels. And the client says, use that exact font. How do you find it?
In the old days, you'd cry. And then you'd spend 4 hours on font websites comparing the curves of the capital P.
But Photoshop has a feature called Match Font. We select Type Match Font. And this uses machine learning, right?
Yeah.
What is it actually looking at?
It's looking at the geometry of the pixels. You draw a box around the word in the image, and the AI analyzes the X height, the weight of the strokes, the angles of the curves. It doesn't read the word, it analyzes the shapes.
And then what? Does it just search your computer?
It searches your local fonts, and it searches the entire Adobe Fonts cloud library. And it gives you a list of the closest statistical matches.
We are 90% sure this is Snell Roundhand.
Exactly. You click it, it syncs the font, and you can just start typing. If we connect this to the bigger picture, this saves hours of manual labor. It's a perfect example of AI integrated into a daily workflow to remove friction.
And there's a similar button in the font menu, right? Show similar fonts.
Yeah, if you find a font you kind of like, but it's not quite right, you hit that button. The AI finds 20 other fonts with the same vibe. It's amazing for brainstorming.
Okay, so we have all our text, we've matched our fonts, we've warped paths. Now we just need the final polish. We have to finish this cover and send it out into the real world.
Right, the final output. But first, we need to add the volume number, VOL9, and it sits inside this little ribbon tag in the top right corner.
So they have us draw a rounded rectangle, which seems simple using the properties panel, but they do a cool trick to make it look less generic.
Yeah, a standard rounded rectangle is perfectly symmetrical, kind of boring. But in the properties panel, you can unlink the corner radius values.
So you click the little chain link icon so it turns off.
Right, and then you tell it to make the top left, top right, and bottom right corners 0 pixels, pure 90-degree angles. But you set the bottom left corner to 16 pixels.
So it's asymmetrical. The right side is sharp and aligns with the bleed, and the left side has this soft curve. It instantly looks custom designed.
And now we have to fit the text into that narrow vertical tag. If you use the normal type tool, it's just going to run right off the edge.
So we use the hidden vertical type tool.
Yep. You literally click and hold on the type tool icon in the toolbar, and it's hiding in that menu. When you use it, it doesn't type left to right, it stacks the letters vertically, right on top of each other.
So VOL9 stacked like a totem pole. They use a condensed Myriad Pro font to keep it skinny.
And we're done with the design.
Yeah.
But this next step is where everything can go horribly wrong. The export dilemma.
Oh boy, the save dialog.
Yes. If you save this masterpiece as a standard JPEG or a TIFF, what happens to all that beautiful, crisp vector math we've been talking about?
It gets rasterized. It's just flattened into dead pixels.
The math is incinerated. If you send that JPEG to a printer and they need to scale it up even slightly, those pixels stretch, the anti-aliasing gets fuzzy, and your crisp text looks incredibly amateur.
So how do we give them a file they can print but keep the vectors alive?
We save it as a Photoshop PDF.
Oh wait, a PDF is just a viewing format, right? Like for reading manuals?
Oh no, a PDF is a highly complex container. When you hit Save as PDF in Photoshop, a box pops up. Yeah. And there is one checkbox that is the most important button in this entire process. Preserve Photoshop editing capabilities.
What does checking that actually do?
It basically smuggles your entire Photoshop file inside the PDF. It creates a flattened preview so the printer can view it normally, but underneath it saves all your layers, your live vector text, your clipping masks, everything.
So it's future-proofed. The printer gets perfect vector edges, and if the client calls tomorrow with a typo, you can open that same PDF and all your text layers are still editable.
Exactly. It even takes those digital yellow sticky notes we used earlier and turns them into Acrobat comments so the printer can read them. It's a universal delivery format.
Now, the book does mention that you should flatten the image at the very end, but we have to be careful with that, right?
Extremely careful. Sometimes a print shop has older equipment that gets confused by complex layers and live text. They might request a flattened file.
So you flatten your master file?
Never. Never flatten your master file and hit save. You will cry. You save your layered version first. It is sacred. Then you flatten the image and you immediately hit save as and add flat to the file name.
So you have a disposable print version and your safe working version.
Exactly. It's the golden rule of non-destructive workflow.
Well, we have covered a massive amount of ground today. We started with the basic duality of type, how it wears a pixel costume but has a vector skeleton. We built cookie-cutter clipping masks, we collapsed leading to make text look tense and dense, and we warped text along invisible curved paths.
We dug into the history of the font wars, unleash open-type features like ligatures and true fractions, and even use neural networks to hunt down missing fonts.
And we learned how to save it all without destroying it. It's just an incredible amount of structural knowledge.
And, looking at all these tools, especially the AI stuff like Match Font, it really leaves you with something to think about.
What's that?
In a world where machine learning can instantly identify a flattened, rasterized script font from some old, blurry image, and variable fonts can perfectly interpolate infinite weights, the value of a designer is changing.
Oh, that's interesting. How so?
It's no longer about just being the person who can find the right font or the person who can operate the pen tool the fastest. The machine can do the mechanical execution. Your value is in knowing why to use it. How does that specific tracking value make the viewer feel? Why does that open type swash work for this specific brand? The tools are automatic, but the intention, the emotional intelligence behind the typography, that is entirely human.
Wow. You have to master the architecture so you can transcend it. That is a brilliant thought to end on. Now, to master these techniques yourself, you need the foundational source for today's deep dive. Make sure to check out the book, Adobe Photoshop CC Classroom, in a book 2018. You can buy the book by scanning the QR code of the book link provided in the description below.
And we explicitly request the audience to follow for more technical design breakdowns and career-building content. Your support helps us keep diving deep.
Thank you so much for joining us. The next time you face that blank digital canvas, remember that you actually have total control. The canvas is yours. We'll see you on the next deep dive.